Welcome back to the Shropshire Hills. I'm out for a walk up onto the Long Mynd, up Small Batch Valley, and I'll be wild camping up near Grindle. The weather is pretty brutal. Just caught a snowstorm, snow shower on the way up here. It's been a very windy day. It's going to be a very windy night. It's brutally cold. It's 2 degrees, but there's a strong northerly wind, 15 gusting 25 knots at the local airfield. It's from the north with a bit of west in it. It's northwesterly. It's due to move around a bit more south overnight, but at the moment it's northerly. It's bringing these snow showers in. It's really quite nice. I'm out testing a new tent today. This is a bit of a new tent shakedown. I've just splashed the cash on a tent made by Hilleberg, my first Hilleberg. Apparently this is a decent tent. It's the all singing, all dancing solo adventurous tent. Has a great wind resistance. So I think if I can get my words out, I think we're going to be testing that out this evening. I would have liked to have tested it in slightly calmer weather, but we'll go for a bit of wind. This weather's really changeable. Lots of showers around, plenty of rain on the way up here. I think this snow is just easing off now. I'll give you a look around. A few little signs of sunshine on the horizon, but plenty of sleet or I think rain in the air now. I didn't put a waterproof layer on. Didn't have time in this strong wind. It came out of nowhere. This is their Buffalo Special 6. Shout out to Buffalo. I've had this one 20 years and it's still brilliant. I'm not sponsored, just a big fan of their gear. It's just a shirt. I've got nothing on underneath. And it keeps you warm in these conditions. It's fairly waterproof, but it has a strange property. I can't remember what it is, but as it gets wet, it still keeps you warm. Great shirt. Not the same can be said for my hat. I just noticed that I put it on inside out quickly as that snow arrived, and now it's wet on the inside, so I'll deal with it. All right, so today I'm walking up Small Batch. Just behind me here is Callow Hill, a spot that I use quite often, but today I'm going to be swinging a right up onto Grindle. Grindle is a round hill. It's got a nice big plateau on the top. I've been up there before, but never from this angle. So I'm going to attempt to walk up there somewhere. From memory, there's a lot of ground cover, a lot of heather and gorse, so perhaps not the best place to pitch a tent, but in this wind anyway, we may drop down a bit further east towards this ridge here, which I think is called Nils. I've camped on Nils a few times in the past. Some nice grassy spots on there. So we'll walk up and have a look. How nice is that? Beautiful. English weather in December. Rain, sleet, snow, strong winds, and now a good dose of sunshine and some relative calm. I've just walked up this way. That's Small Batch, the valley. And then on the right there is Callow Hill, a popular camping spot of mine. I'll put a link to a video I've made up there previously. It's a wonderful spot. But I'm almost at the top of Grindle. A few of my mates are on the top here. For anyone who watched my last video, wild camping in the cold northern wind. Here they are. Let's go and check them out. You don't want to know. I'm not going to bother them. I'll be licking my tent at 3 AM. Hey. Few snow showers in the distance there. These guys don't care. Right, let's crack on. This is the summit of Grindle, 459 meters. Wonderful views all the way around. The visibility is great today when we're not in a snow shower. There are a few of those whipping through over in the south. Nothing coming this way. But great views. The wind must be 30 to 40 miles per hour. So I'm going to wander down that way a couple of 100 meters and dip down out of this wind. I found a half decent pitch by dropping down off the summit of Grindle a couple of 100 meters onto Nils. I found this flattish area in amongst all this heather. There aren't many options, to be honest, and the whole hill is covered in horse shit. But this will do nicely. It's knocked a few knots off the wind speed, I think, and it's still got great views, so that's the main reason for me coming up here. Absolutely stunning views all the way around. Still an hour until sunset, but I'm keen to get this tent up as I have no idea what I'm doing. It's quite windy, and there are a few snow showers still around, so there's a chance we might get hit with one. The tent is a Hilleberg Soulo BL Hilleberg Soulo Black Label. This has come highly recommended to me. I've seen a few people using it. I've had my eye on the Soulo for a few years now, and then recently the Black Label version, which is Hilleberg's strongest single man tent, I think, or one of. It's bloody expensive, best part of $1,000 for a tent, which still seems like madness to me, to be honest. Yeah, I'm VAT registered, so even with that, it's still 800 quid. So let's try not to mess it up on the first pitch. Don't think I've ever felt safer pitching a tent. Must be 30-mile-an-hour winds. I've only got one guy lying in so far. Feels safe as houses. even with me not knowing what I'm doing. First impressions are that it's absolutely solid. It's really quite windy out there and it's not moving much in here at all. There's not quite as much headroom as I thought there'd be. I'm 6'2". It's just about enough to sit up straight. But all round, pretty impressed so far. It's about a half an hour until sunset. So I'm gonna quickly throw my gear in here and shoot a bit of video. It's blowing a hoolie out here. This thing's rock solid. I'm not. We've got this spectacular light. Last 20 minutes before sunset. Snow showers being lit up in the distance. You pay a fortune for a shelter like that, but it allows you to come out and see things like this. Well, that was pretty incredible out there. Gorgeous sunset light underneath those snow showers. It's really quite special. Pleased I came out. Pleased I braved that sleet and snow on the way up here. And I'm really liking the tent. I love this big doorway. I like this flap. It's a really good touch. Being able to see outside without having the door open. I really like that. Plenty enough room in here, it turns out. Just enough headroom. I've got all my gear out now and lots of space. I'm just doing a brew. I've got some M&S fruit granola bars. I didn't buy these. I definitely don't shop in M&S. Can't afford to bloody shop in M&S after buying this tent. So I was given these. They look pretty good. I'm going to have them with a nice warm brew. They're out of date, by the way. That's all I can afford in M&S. Free out of date food. But yeah, really happy with the tent. Up until now, I've been going out on wild camps in the hills and mountains for probably getting on for 10 years now, and I've always used rather cheap tents. I started out using a £20 pop-up tent from Tesco. That was my first recreational wild camp, in a £20 pop-up tent up on or near the summit of Snowdon in January. It was snowy and windy. It was interesting. I remember it, so it was worth it from that regard. It was memorable. There was condensation forming above me. It was a really windy night, and it was freezing to ice and showering me with ice during the night. So memorable. I moved on to a few quetchers and started spending 40-50 quid on tents. And then the last few years I've had MSRs. I've got the MSR Elixir 1 and the MSR Elixir 3. They're both great. They just don't do wind very well. They're nothing like this. It's not even comparable to the Hilleberg. They're decent tents. The 3 I use a fair bit. I use that with my boys. 2 sons, we go out. Fits 3 of us. 2 porches. Vestibules, if you're posh. 2 porches, lots of room, but it just doesn't handle wind very well. And the Elixir 1, smaller, and you'd think being smaller it would handle the wind better, and it just doesn't. I think the 3 is better. The 1 is tricky in the wind. I snapped just up on Ashlet. I bent all the poles up on one occasion, and another occasion, 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, I snapped one of the poles in the night. So far from ideal. This is just absolutely next level, to be honest with you. So I'm just gonna wait around now a couple of hours for dark skies. Love this door, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, half a chance of a clear sky or a bit of a clear sky. That cloud is still around, it's still very windy. This tent's hardly moving. So I'm gonna have a hot brew, do a bit of reading, the old Kindle. Just started a new book yesterday. For anyone that's into reading, I've started Dostoevsky's Demons, it's called. Quite like Dostoevsky. Just started it yesterday. Past few months I've read the Bible front to back, and then I'm moving on to a book called Demons. So take from that what you will. Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, probably his best book to get started with. There's one called The Idiot that's pretty good, and he wrote the best novel of all time, The Brothers Karamazov. Best novel of all time, by far, in my opinion. Check that out if you're into reading. But yeah, Demons, hot brew, M&S granola, and I'll see you for some night sky action in an hour or 2. A clear night sky, but still very windy. Gusts are still very strong, so no good for astrophotography. Beautiful to be out here though. A 1 billion star hotel. Milky Way above, Jupiter behind, satellites whipping by, the lights of Church Stretton behind me, and that brutally cold northerly wind. Just cooking up some meatballs very, very slowly. My gas bottle's running out. It's very cold, so it's giving out the gas very slowly. Just as well, really. I don't want to be splashing fat all over my new tent. Not just yet, anyway. The new tent's been great. Really quite like it. A few little annoying things. One is that there's no overhead pouch. I usually put my light up there, shining down. I'm having to have my light down here, shining up, which feels a little bit odd. I can do with the pouch there. There are loads of tabs. These look like they're for a washing line or something. So I'll figure out a light for future trips. And these zips are really annoying. There are lots and lots of metal zips everywhere. Have you seen a jingly jangly truck? It's one of those Middle Eastern trucks. Drive around with all the decorations in the cab. That's what they sound like. Jingly janglies. It's really quite annoying. I might tape them up. But other than that, all good. I've seen that people moan about condensation. I've got a bit in here already. Well, I've left this open and I'm cooking in here as well, so I should expect that. I've seen people moan about the size and weight and it being excessive for the UK, but the UK is one of the windiest countries in the world, so I'm happy to overspec it. Really quite like that at the minute. I'm not worried about the weight either. Quite like the weight. I like carrying heavy gear. I've made no effort, zero effort to lighten my gear over the years. It's good for you, carrying heavy stuff around. And while I'm still relatively young, I've got no interest in cutting down a few hundred grams here or there. Zero interest. I'm happy to trade a bit of weight for a tent that's stormproof, effectively, bomb-proof. I have had a bomb-proof tent before. I'm not sure if I should talk about it, but back in the day, during the war, as they say, I shared a big tent with a few blokes. A normal tent, canvas tent, but we made it fairly bomb-proof. We had mattresses laying out on the floor. We put concrete blocks, you know, like big 9-inch thick concrete blocks. We positioned those all around the mattress on 3 sides, up to about 4 foot high. I know there are a few ex-military guys who watch the channel. Maybe you'll remember these. The concrete coffins. So we had concrete blocks around 3 sides. We had a bit of a gap on the side of the mattress, and then another concrete block wall. So concrete, I'll put a picture up if I can. I'm not sure I'm allowed to put a picture up. I may put a picture up. If not, I'll just describe it. Concrete blocks on 3 sides tight, then 1 side extended, up to about 3 or 4 foot high. And then over the mattress itself, a thick sort of 10mm steel plate covering the whole of the mattress. And then on top of that there was a big slab of Kevlar, steel framed Kevlar sheet running the full length, and then a few dozen sandbags on top, big 25 kilo sandbags, Hessian bags. That was on top, and then we slept inside. Bomb proof, almost, not quite, but it did a good job. And now I'm poncing around in a expensive Hilleberg, calling it bomb proof. That is bloody good. You just can't buy camping meals as good as that. Meatballs, chicken and mushroom pot noodle. Right, it is about 9 p.m. Sunrise is not until 8:20. 8:20 sunrise tomorrow, late one. It was sunset just before 4, so over 16 and a half hours of darkness to sit up here eating meatballs. And I'm going to spend the rest of the evening reading a book about demons, alone, in the middle of the night, on the Long Mynd. I'll see you at sunrise. Another long, cold night on the Long Mynd. A quiet night. This tent was rock steady in the wind. The wind eased off a little bit towards dawn, but there was very little flapping all night. I think owing to the tension that it puts in this fabric. It's the most noticeable thing for me, that it's a really quiet tent, no flapping. I was disturbed a couple of times by sheep roaming up and baaing at 3 in the morning. But no wild ponies, I didn't have to fight anyone. I got up just before sunrise to this remarkable colour in the sky. Still very windy. I thought I'd try a time lapse anyway. It's just on the go here. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. Sunrise is in about 3 minutes, so I'm going to go and check that out. I'll leave you with some sunrise shots and see you in the next one.